Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the vintage Patriot missile M901 and its carrier in 1/48 scale. It's an ARII model kit number A681, and although they're still not in production, other makers have picked up the slack, such as the Myco Ace ARII model 641514. But other makers have also made them, and there are also companion pieces that were produced by ARII, such as the ladder controller and the missile controller and the antenna mast, but those you'll have to find at the online auction sites. Now, the Patriot missile is an acronym for Phased Array Tracking Radar to Intercept on Target, in case you didn't know. And the pieces for this kit are molded in olive drab and smoke gray clear, some vinyl tubing and some rubber tubing with water slide decals. There are 107 pieces and some nice laid out instructions, and they're primarily in Japanese with some English translations, so you can follow it along. There's also an app that you can download to translate the instructions. But anyway, when you're done with the kit, the tractor and the trailer together will be about 13¼ inches long, 4¼ inches high or wide, and 6½ inches high, unless you raise the launcher. Here are the contents of this kit, and as you can see, everything is bagged pretty much in one bag with the cabs separate. Now, we'll be using Model Master's liquid cement for most of the construction. Sometimes slow setting tube glue for things that need to be positioned, or super glue for items that need strength. Where the glass is installed, we'll be using a white glue for that. And please follow the manufacturer's safety and use suggestions when using any of the products that you see or hear mentioned in the review. Here are the decals for this kit. And as you can see, the register is pretty good. The color is nice, and if you get some of the yellowing from age, you can simply turn this face out in the window and tape it there for about a week or so in the sunshine, and it'll brighten up the white areas nicely. Also know that when you're using decals, especially on military vehicles with rivets and panel lines, it's helpful to use some of the decal setting solutions available on the aftermarket to help them nestle in and conform to the body. Doing a little research, I found that most of the cabs and the launcher mechanism was in desert cam type of schema, so that's the way I painted it, although I did see some of the trailers in olive drab, so that's the way I went with this one. You could do more research to customize your build, but nonetheless, take these components for the chassis and assemble them, and then I used Model Master Modern Desert Sand to spray these parts and get them ready for the next step. Of course, the front of the bottom is attached to the rear, and then you can assemble that at this time. You can assemble the cabs tires with these pieces now, and of course the tires are painted flat black, and the rims were painted with the desert sand. So then go ahead and assemble all of these units for the chassis. Starting with the rear dualies there, you can insert one of the axles into one of the outer tires, and then slide on one of the inner tires, and then put that through the axle housing. Do the same thing with the other rear dually set, and then add the opposite complementary tires to that side, and then the fronts also, same way. Just start the axles through and then press the wheels together, and that completes the wheel assembly. Also painted desert sand. These winch assembly pieces will be used to assemble that, and so go ahead and attach the pieces together and set that aside to dry. Get the tractor parts out, T20 and T2, and they're sprayed with Model Master Desert Sand. And then we're going to detail the T1 assembly, the winch, that's the chassis, of course, and T20 and 2 are camouflage with some Tester's brown bottle paint. So go ahead and do that as you see fit according to your references. So I'll be referring to many of the parts here by part number because there are no English names presented. in most of the assembly, but we'll attach the top front of the T1 and the T2, and they're attached to the top rear of the T1 assembly. That's your chassis. And then the winch assembly is attached directly to T20. So next we'll stage these parts, and they're spray painted with the desert sand. And then of course the body and the grill, and the rims on the spare tires that are carried on the cab there. And so we'll be putting those together. Now both T19 pieces, T5 hatch and T10 are attached to the body, and the headlights are attached to the T9s there on the body, and the assembly is detailed with some gloss brown just like we did, and then spray painted with some dull coat. So now decal number 1 and a decal that looks close to the box heart there are applied to the sides of the body assembly, and the instructions only discuss decal 1 and a few others, but not all of the decals are on the sheet are used here. Some of them are used actually in some of the other assembly kits that they have as companion pieces. So it's important to put your decals on at this point, because the windows are installed in the next step, and it's cleaner and easier to spray the clear flat on the body prior to installing the windows, so you don't have to mask them. So we'll get these pieces out, including the glass there. It's a tinted window, and you're going to glue the window into position using some white glue so that that dries clear. And then this other piece is installed to trap the body or the window into the body. At this time we can install the body assembly there to the chassis, and decal number 3 is applied to that in front of the tires. And there's an option there for which numbers can be used for decal number 3 depending on your livery choice. Locate the antenna and the body plates here along with the bumper. Spray those with the sand color, and then you can detail the bumper with some of that dark brown. And then we will add both the antennas and those plates to the body along with the bumper, and then decal number 5 is attached to the bumper too. With these parts we'll start doing some work for the trailer, and you can spray paint these with some, I used Model Masters olive drab color for this one. Locate the tires and axles for the trailer, and spray paint the rims with the olive drab, and detail the rubber sections with some flat black. And then add a shaft to 2 of the tires, and let that sit for a minute. So slide one of the axle tire assemblies into the slot on A12, that's your trailer chassis, and then snap a tire onto the other side for both sets there in the trailer. So locate the landing feet here for the trailer, A7 and A6, and those are sprayed with the olive drab. Now A7 is attached to the top front lower deck of A1, the trailer chassis, and then A6 is attached to the top back lower deck there. Gather up the supports you see here and spray those with the olive drab, and then A2 is attached to the left bottom of the frame A1 and A7. And A3 is attached to the left bottom of A1, A6. So then that's attached to the right bottom of A1, A7. Now A5 is attached to the right bottom of A1 and A6 also. Find these supporting pieces, A14, 15, and 16, and spray those with the Model Master olive drab. After those parts have dried, attach A14 to the rear of A1, and then A16 is attached to the front of the A7, A4 assembly. And now A15 will be attached to the front of the A7, A2 assembly. Get out these pieces for the launch assembly, and we'll spray those with the olive drab. And once they are dry, B5 then is placed on top of B13. Now don't use glue. Now B3 is attached to a post on B5 that sticks through the bottom of B13. Now B17 is snapped onto B5, once again no glue there, so that we can use this as a mechanism to lower and raise the system. Now I use a toothpick here just to show that it goes up and down. Find these support arms and the rod there, and they'll be painted with the olive drab color as well. So we'll assemble the cylinders here. B10 is attached to B12 and then 11 to 9. And now the B1210 assembly is attached to a post on the right side of B5. And then B2 is attached to B10. Now the B9 is attached to to B2, and then the B911 assembly is attached to a post on the left side of the platform there. So locate the cylinders here, the pistons, and also a little bit of that black tubing, and then you cut that tubing to an 1/8 inch and install that onto B8, and that's done twice. And I didn't paint the pistons here to give them more of a realistic look, a little shinier appearance. And they could also be painted, silver or aluminum. But one B8 assembly is then installed onto a post on the right side of B17, then installed into the B1210 assembly that we did earlier. And then the second one is done on the left side. Then I assembled the lift in the up position. However, it can be in the down position as well. That's why we didn't use glue on some of those joints. So locate and paint these parts for the cargo boxes on the trailer and the cab-like units there. A Model Masters olive drab, and then once you've assembled those boxes, they can be attached to the trailer chassis. So the B4 cabin there was installed on the top front of A1, the chassis, and then B19 assembly is attached to the top left of A1, right behind A7. Now the B18 also attached to the top right behind A7. We can turn our attention now to the missile silos, and in these shots, parts C11 and 12 they're all spray painted Model Master Desert Sand, and C11 is attached to 12. Repeat for 13 and 14, so you have two boxes there. And then C11-12 assembly is attached to the top of C13 and 14 assembly. You put those two together, and you'll follow the same process to assemble the rest of the silos there with parts C7 and 8, 9, and 10. So now you'll have two silo pairs, and then in the instructions they get decaled now, but they seem to have mixed up decals 10 and 11, so I switched them around and they seem to be matched to the instructions. Now get the frames for the silos out and spray paint those the matching desert sand. And attach C1 to the front right side of 11, 12, 13, and 14, and then C5 to the rear, and then C3 is attached to the front left side of C11, 12, 13, and 14 assembly. So then we move to C4, which is attached to the rear left side of that subassembly. Now the right side of C7, 8, 9, and 10, they're attached to C3 and 4, and then C2 is attached to the front left side of 7, 8, 9, and 10 assembly. Now C6 finally is attached to the rear left side of the C7 through 10 assembly. Get the silo covers out, and C16 is attached to the back of the 7-8 assembly, and the second one is attached to the back of the 9 and 10 assembly, and one of the C15s is attached to the back of the 11-12. Now the second C15 is attached to the back of the 13 and 14 assembly, so you're just boxing those in. Now we'll attach the missile battery silos to the launch assembly. And please remember that you need to scrape off any paint from the glue contact points, so that you get a good bond. So go ahead and set that up there, and it'll fit into its position, and glue that into place at this time. So we'll grab the whole assembly there, the launch assembly platform and the silos. And notice I left one of the covers off of the silos. You'll see why later. But also glue that into position. It goes into some spots there on the trailer. So we're going to cut the vinyl tubing that you have in the kit here into 4 pieces that are about 5 centimeters, and Also, the B1 there, the post looks like an antenna, is sprayed with olive drab, and it's installed onto a post on the left side. And then B1 can either be in the up or down position, so I chose the up since the missile's in the up position. And the vinyl pieces, of course, are installed, you can see there on the right side towards the back of the trailer. Now you can spray the crew figures here and the supporting pieces, the rack ladder rides and the ladder, a Model Master olive drab color to match the trailer piece. So part number A10 is attached to the bottom left side of the frame there between A7 and the tires, and piece A11 is attached to the bottom right side of the chassis between the tires, A7 and the tires. Now we can attach the rails A9 to the right side of the steps and A8 to the left side of the steps. You see the arrows point out their positions. So the crew members were painted with a flat drab there, which will act as a primer. And then I went ahead and sprayed them in Desert Fatigue, so I painted them with the Tester's flat tan for the uniforms and some flat brown camo pattern, touch-ups there. And Model Master's flat black for the boots and the headphones, and the gunmetal on the sunglasses, and Model Master insignia red berets for A19 there. And Model Master skin tone warm tint for the face and hands. Now there's some decals that are applied to the trailer. However, only number 4 decal and decal 8 are the only ones that are mentioned for the trailer in the instructions. So I used the box art to add the other decals that were seen on the box, and you can see here in this picture. Finally, we'll get to the missiles, and I sprayed the bodies of those Model Master bright white, and the tail of the rocket and a section by the nose was painted with some insignia red. There's decals that get applied to the missiles, and I cut a styrene strip about an 1/8 inch by 0.15 and cut to a 7 3/4 inch length. And I installed that into the missile at the end of one of the missiles, so that the strip made it look like the Patriot was launching by keeping it from bottoming out in the silo. And that's why I left the cover off of one of those silos, so that you could see one of the missiles in action. So step the 17 here shows this being done with a plastic styrene from the parts tree, which you could use as well. So we can install the rocket assembly into the silo here that's still open. And here's demonstrated how the styrene strip in the back helps add some detail to the launcher by keeping it from slipping down all the way inside, and you'd never see them. Using some online references in the box art, decal 8, the turn signal, and decal 4, the trailer number, are the only decals on the instructions that are applied. So I tried to use the box art and match it up with decals that were on the sheet. As I said, this is an all-in-one decal sheet for a number of the assemblies that they sell with this system, and so they're not very clearly pointed out here for all the locations. So you have to use references to find out where they go. Well, there you have it. This was a pretty good build. Everything fit well, had good positive locating points, and there were relatively no flash or ejector pin marks that needed to be repaired. The parts all fit well, engineered properly to go together, and they assembled easily. So there were some minor issues I had with the kit. I couldn't find where the cab was identified as something that would pull this Patriot missile trailer, but that's another issue. And it still looks stunningly nice when you put the whole thing together. It looks like a great display. In addition, the other kits that support the Patriot system, they are available. They're out there and were produced, but no longer by this company, but they're still out there. Now there's a Soldier 2 that's in a sitting position, but there's not an interior for the cab, so I'm not sure whether he's just supposed to sit on the box or what. The third issue was the lack of real guidance for decal placement, and I'm not sure if that's because the kit was designed with the cab in mind and not necessarily the trailer, but nonetheless, references help to put those into place and make a proper looking military vehicle. So if I were you, I'd find one and put it on my shelf. Well, we hope you like this premium step-by-step model kit review. And so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook and at our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!